So there's a story I want to share with you guys. You know, I was online, I was looking up, and I saw this story, article, whatever have you. It's a lady that had like 8 relationships, and after all her 8 relationships, they all failed. So they all went to get married, they proposed to other women, but she never got proposed to, she never got married, and she started thinking to herself like, am I the problem? You know, think about it, like you had relationship after relationship, you thought you was in love and you thought you could make it down the aisle and you only made the supermarket aisle. So, and with that being said, Jordy, is it like she's too toxic for love? You know, like when you hear the story, what do you think?
I don't think anyone is necessarily too toxic for love, but I do believe that love now isn't always positive, especially with relationships like between 2 unhealed people, like their unhealed traumas. And not for nothing, just because people are getting married does not mean that's a successful relationship. Just saying that right there, that could be a Band-Aid,
but
you
she
know?
had like 8 failed relationships and they went on to get married. Like, if that happened to you, what are your thoughts? Where's your head at?
Well, honestly, I'm a very like stay in my lane kind of person. I'm really not too worried about what other people are doing with their lives. But it really would cross my mind like what part I played in the whole relationship, and like if my negative reactions or maybe tendencies outweighed my positive, you know? But I still feel like it takes 2 to tango. And I don't feel like this woman should necessarily feel 100% responsible for the failed relationship. Did you want to say something, Rico?
Rico raised
You
his hand.
cannot like sit here and just point the finger at one person for a problem. There's so many factors.
Can I give you, speaking of factors, right? I like factors, right? I was very good in math. And there's something that's a terminology that we can use that's also in factors, and it's called a common denominator.
That's
so
true.
if you have 8 failed relationships and they go on to be married, even if it's not successful, they are seeing a more purposeful future with that person after you, right? So if you have, the craziest thing is that it took 8, right? And like,
welcome to 8 at the table.
But yeah, it takes 8 at the table. But like, and what I'm gonna go on to say is, I typically think that comes with a lack of accountability. Because if I'm starting to realize that 3 of my exes are going on to get married, I'm gonna be happy for them at 1, 2, 3, congrats. You know, I wish you nothing but best. By the 4th one, I'm questioning like, wait a minute, hold on. After we separate, you find somebody else, y'all get married a year or 2 later. I was with you for 2 years and all we did was fight and complain and end up nowhere. I need to start doing some self-reflecting. I need to take initiative to figure out what I am doing. And I think the problem is people don't know how to point the finger at themselves. And they can easily say, well, you know, you were, you know, during that time, you didn't really have it all together. Well, guess what? Maybe the person that they're with now helped them get it together. I didn't. So sometimes when you point the finger at yourself, you're able to reflect and take accountability. So it don't take 8. It don't take 8 failed relationships.
Yeah. And I think accountability is number 1, but I also think that being able to be honest with yourself about what you want, because you talked about this earlier about like having a fairy tale in your mind. You know, I think a lot of times, and again, the hardest person to be honest with is yourself. And if you're not honest with yourself about what you want, what you need, what you desire, it's not gonna work with that person. Yeah, he might be fine, he might have a 6-figure job, but he might not align with his morals and values and goals just might not align with you. But you really pushing that narrative of what society says is good, of what you think you want. You know what I'm saying? Not what you actually need. And so I think along with accountability, you have to be honest with yourself. Like, you can't look in the mirror and lie to yourself.
I agree. You know, I agree with you because I bet you this lady got a good vagina. Let me tell you, I feel like I'm toxic. No, it took me a while to realize that. No, y'all gonna think I'm lying. I realize I'm toxic, and I feel like the reason that I'm toxic is because I have good vagina, and I feel entitled to a lot of things. No, I manipulate guys after I have sex with them. This is how I become toxic. I manipulate them. I use them. I do things to them that make them go crazy, that make them wonder. I manipulate them a lot, and I'm also very independent. You know what I'm saying? I'm not dependent on nobody. And when you're in a relationship, like, and I'm learning that all that thing now. I didn't really understand why all my relationship wasn't working out, but it's because I am toxic. I do manipulate guys. I am a narcissistic. You know what I'm saying? So
narcissist.
Yeah, but I am that. You know what I'm saying? I used to think it's the guys that's doing it, but I realize it's actually me. You know what I'm saying? I use my vagina a lot. Once I have sex with you, I use you. Like I control your mind and stuff like that. That's how I become toxic.
Beyond the brujeria.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and it's messed up. And it took me a while. Like you said, it took me a lot of relationships to realize, like, damn, and after a while, a guy be like, no, I'm on a good vagina that's gonna make me stay there. This girl is really like, you know what I'm saying? Because I become I really like, I'm selfish sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. That's one thing I'm gonna say. I could be very selfish. It's all about me. You know what I'm saying? And then I manipulate you, and then I'm like, oh my God, you don't care about me? Why are you not doing this? and I'm doing the same thing you're doing. You know what I'm saying? But I know you're gonna go crazy because I know where you stuck at. You know what I'm saying? And so I used my power as a woman to mess guys up. You know what I'm saying? So it like and a lot of times it takes time. You say fall, but women sometimes, we are so into our head, but like, it's so easy to be toxic, you know what I'm saying? If, like you said, the sixth thing, you could be too independent, too dependent, selfish, manipulation, or like, even like when I start dealing with a dude, I want him to start doing everything I'm doing. I don't want to do anything he's doing. I'm like, okay, come here with me. Do that with me, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of things that come with being toxic, and I didn't know they were being toxic. I'm entitled a lot, like even my cousin be like, you can't be this entitled. I'm like, but my cousin be like, but you doing it. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like they would stay there and they would just like, but eventually nobody want to deal with this amount of toxicity.
I find that, and wait, no, Amanda, you didn't speak on it yet.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I feel like in this situation, in this scenario, it was absolutely the woman that was at fault. It was her fault that she didn't find the happy ending she was looking for, because in what time span were you having 8 healthy relationships?
That's a good point.
I feel like if the first one didn't work, how much time did you take to heal and be better, find a mistake and be better for your next one, to get into the third one, to get into the fourth one? You cannot be very successful when you haven't healed. Like Jordy says, you haven't healed from that last relationship. Did you look and solve the problems that existed in the previous relationships?
No, because you know what? Some people, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
To go off what you're saying, what I realized is that some people, there could be a problem with them, but what they do is they sweep it under the rug, right? So let's say if I have a problem with something and I'm dating you, and that problem causes me and you to break up, but now I'm starting to date Erin, and what was the problem in that relationship with you is not a problem with her. But guess what? There's now another problem over here. And so the problems tend to accumulate. You keep sweeping problems underneath the rug, and now all of a sudden the rug can't lay flat. And now you're gonna be out here looking at everybody else like, damn, they're successful and I'm not. And why isn't it? And you're right, it's because they didn't take the time, but that's because the problems that you have in this relationship may not be the same problem that you have in your next relationship, but that does not mean you don't have that problem.
Quick question. So what it sounds like to me, and I know you hate when I say that, but what it sounds like to me is that like at times people can walk on eggshells and not really address whatever the issue is. So it's like, oh, I don't want to upset her. Like, I don't feel like getting into it. I don't want to argue, So let me just, tiptoe around situations, But I think that's one thing that people have to be comfortable with. Like, it's okay to like have a conversation. It's okay to have a difficult conversation. It's okay to have an argument. Like, you can't walk around on eggshells with a partner and expect that relationship to work, because if there's a problem and you don't identify it, how else can you expect that person to change their behavior? How? Like, I mean, ain't nobody read minds around here, so it's just like, and I'm be honest, I feel like men and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like men.
We doing gender now?
I feel like
Plan on it.
no, but I feel like men do it more because like y'all be like, ooh, I don't want to get in an argument. I don't want to.
Wait, hold up. Wait, I want to pick Danny. Wait. Danny just said.
Because women will say something and address it and be ready to talk about it.
Okay, wait. Danny and you just said, especially Danny, men don't like to talk.
No, that's not what I was saying.
Danny said men don't like to talk. The reason why we don't like to talk because...
Don't say we, Oliver, because I like to talk.
You don't know.
You go ahead and you say the reason why.
Some men, the reason why some men.
So the reason why some men don't like to talk because it's not created a safe space to talk.
Right.
And that's also a tribute to a toxic relationship. Whether this is probably why that lady had 6 failed relationships. Or that man had failed relationship. But we're talking about you guys brought gender in, so that man is not gonna feel safe to talk. Because once he starts talking, you're gonna jump on him or shut it down.
So
or you're gonna make it. It's not a blame, but we are in this together.
I do
Hold on, just listen to what I'm saying. For anyone to talk, right? Don't you have to feel safe and comfortable to speak?
Yes. I absolutely agree with you. But it's just on the basis that I do feel like there's a motherhood energy that every woman has, and somehow, some way, it does get translated in them loving their partner. Somehow, some way. Like the aspect of like, okay, hey, like we're in this argument. Now all of a sudden I don't feel safe in like opening up to you or telling you the truth. And like when you think about it, like as a kid, when your parents ever like had you in trouble or whatever, you know, you were very timid, like being emotionally open. You never wanted to be extra because maybe you would have been ridiculed for it. So I understand the male perspective of not necessarily wanting to open up emotionally, but I do feel like on the woman's side, there's sometimes some women tend to think that growth is a collective. Like for her to grow, her and her man have to grow together. And I do feel like in a lot of boyfriend and girlfriend relationships, especially, partners tend to forget that they really are on their own journey and they are on their own path. And to actually be a team, like you have to be your own player. You can't play both sides because those benefits naturally aren't theirs if like the woman put up majority of the work. That's where I feel like arguments like household domestic shit, like a woman cleaning up a lot or things like that, and all of a sudden there's an argument, like people butt heads all the time over little small shit. Yeah, but it's off of like the communication.
I don't think it's that.
Then what do you think it is?
I don't think it's that at all. And to go on what you said, it's not even about it being a safe space. You have to, like, women have to understand this. Y'all are hard-headed, and women don't listen. Sometimes.
That's a very likewise statement. Coming from a man saying the hard-headedness, I'm just saying that's a very likewise statement.
No, but it does not matter. What I'm trying to say is, she had 8 failed relationships. You're not gonna sit here and convince me that it was not a safe space and guys don't like to talk. No, they're talking, she's not being receptive, right? Everybody talks in different ways. If you have 8 failed relationships, you don't know how to listen, you do not know how to take direction. And direction is not like, I don't want to put that in a submissive aspect, but taking direction like maybe, hey, you know what? You need to just do this just this way so then that way you get further in your life. And guess what? Maybe she doesn't listen in that regard. Hey, if you want for me and you to be better, I need you to do this so then I could give you that. Maybe she's not listening in that regard. But women tend to not listen. The ones that I believe jump from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship is because she doesn't listen to anybody. And as a man, we are supposed to be the provider and we're supposed to be the leader. But if you're not allowing him to lead because you're just not listening, then it's gonna cause confrontations, which is eventually nobody's gonna want it.
I have a question.
I completely understand what you're saying. I just disagree with that.
Men, and I'm not talking about you.
Okay.
And I know we have different perspectives on this, but do you feel like men in general, when you take a mental account of you and of your friends, do you feel like men in general walk on eggshells, try to avoid fights, try to avoid confrontation?
No.
Wait, just hold on. Try to avoid.
You're not even a man.
Try to avoid confrontation, like this, that, and the other. Or are they direct, comprehensive, succinct, and clear on whatever their issues are?
All of my friends, every one of them. And I have a strong group of friends, but I'm also going to say that my friends are pretty much successful in all of the things that they did. And being successful, actually, in one thing, is the same requirements in all of them. So yes, they are direct. Yes, they voice their opinion. Yes, they're comprehensive. They had to teach me to be open-minded, to also be receptive to listen on the feedback. All of us do. When Oliver, for example, no offense, Oliver would never fit in my circle of friends. He would never fit in my circle of friends because the way that we speak about our situations and the way that we address our situations is so left from him. Now, you asked me that question. Yes, we do give. There would never be a friend in my phone that says, hey, yeah, I wanted to talk to my girl about this, but I don't feel like there was a safe space to speak about it. That doesn't exist.
Well, no. I wasn't talking about safe spaces. What I'm talking about is there are oftentimes men, they be like, yo, I don't want the headache, so I ain't even finna bring it up.
That's
what I'm talking about. No, that's not a safe space.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Think about it.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and I get what he's saying, but
you gotta feel comfortable.